Hi, and welcome to this Tempus University training video of configuring timesheets in Tempus Resource. I'm your host, Beth Rosepal, Implementation Specialist at Prosymmetry. Today we'll be talking about how Tempus Timesheets Configurations allow administrators to configure how users will interact with their timesheets. We'll talk about the different functionalities within configurations and show how administrators can configure how users will interact with timesheets. To configure timesheets, administrators can access the timesheet configurations by selecting admin settings and then timesheet settings within the admin settings screen. We'll go through each of these configurations here in this video today. To start, we'll take a look at week start. This just determines when the period of the timesheet will begin. The default will be Monday. However, you can select any other day depending how you would like your periods to start and end. Non-working days will go ahead and define any days within the week that you don't want any time to be entered. Again, automatically Sunday and Saturday will be selected. However, if you do have some resources that enter time on Saturday or Sunday, you can deselect those, giving you the option to add in that time as well. Please note that updating non-working days is not going to retroactively update the existing timesheet periods. So when this is changed, the existing timesheet periods will not be impacted. It's only going to affect timesheet periods that you create after the setting has been established. Dominant unit. This determines the dominant unit for your timesheets. This can either be time or FTE. Important thing to know with dominant unit is that this is a separate configuration from the dominant unit set in your general settings. So if time is your dominant unit, like it is in mine, you can see here that if I select FTE, it's then going to ask me to go ahead and define what one FTE equals in time to be able to calculate that configuration. So just something to note, if you do change it from your dominant unit, it is going to ask you for that definition for timesheets. Active units allows you to determine what unit of measure you want your users to be entering their time on their timesheets in. This can be done in time, FTE, FTE percentage, or man days. As you'll note here, it does give you multiple options. So if you wanted to include both time and FTE, if you only wanted to give one option, you can check as many boxes or as few boxes as you'd like. Saving approved timesheets to project actuals. When this is enabled, what this does is it allows timesheets that have been approved, takes that data, pulls in those actuals into the underlying project for you to be able to go ahead and evaluate the time that you're planning with the actual time that was done on the project. Showing project assignments allows timesheet users to open the project specified in their timesheet in a new tab in a read-only state. Only planned allocations and schedule information will be displayed, so it's not going to give them all of the information, but it does allow to be able to pull that in on another page if the timesheet user would like to see that. Show resource requests just allows the icons to be displayed if applicable within a user's timesheet. There's also going to be a filtering option available as well based on the resource request status within the timesheet. Allowing timesheet users to view planned allocations as well as allow timesheet approver to view planned allocations. This just gives the user or the approver a frame of reference for how many hours the resource should have been working on a given assignment. Once it's enabled, they can toggle over to view those planned hours within the timesheet they're reviewing or they're working within and entering time against for the user. Allow timesheet users to see period view along with allowing timesheet approvers to see period view. This just allows for the user to be able to enter time in instead of at that daily level at the period level. It's going to evenly distribute that time then throughout the period. So if it is, say, set for a week duration or something like that, and they were to enter that time in, say they have five days that they have to enter time in and 2 non-working days. If they enter in, say, 20 hours for the period, it's going to go ahead and then enter 4 days in for 4 hours in for each day. Same thing with approver. It just allows them to see that information in a period view versus at that daily level. Timesheet time entry, this goes ahead and allows for timesheets to be configured to allow only generic tasks, custom tasks, or both to be displayed within the timesheet. So if this is set to project, this is going to ultimately only pull in any assignments at that generic project level. And if it's set to the task level, it's only going to pull in custom tasks for any planned allocations for that user. If all is set, it will pull in both generic and custom tasks to the timesheet. Restrict time entry when calendars applied. If you have any calendars on any of your resources, and for example, say it's a holiday calendar and they have 8 days on a specific holiday, what's going to happen is the timesheet is going to block out the day and gray it out like it would a non working day so that time cannot be applied to that day. Ultimately, because we don't, of course, want users to be entering in time on any days where they shouldn't be working, like holidays and things like that. So this just restricts it. So you're not getting any data that shouldn't be there if a calendar's been applied. Write weekend data into the work week. If you were to go ahead and say that there weren't any non-working days within timesheets, this would allow your users to be able to enter in time on Sunday and Saturday. Some organizations do have resources that do work weekends. If that's the case, in order to be able to pull that data into your actuals, to be able to report on it, and again, just do an overall review of capacity and allocations and things like that, you would want to toggle the option to write that weekend data into the work week on so that that way you are still getting that data. It's not being lost within Tempus. Auto open and close behavior. We'll talk about period management in another video, but normally within period management, they have to be periods have to be open and closed manually. This feature automates that process for you. So if you enable this, it allows you to determine when a period should automatically be opened and when a period should automatically close. You'll notice that I have mine set to in 5 days before start, but you could set this to be 0 days before start. So it only opens the day of the period, or you could have it open as far back as 60 days if you'd like. Same thing can be done for auto close. Again, it can kind of close that same day or the day after, or you can have a close up to 60 days after. Reminder days and notifications. This just allows you as an administrator to decide how many days before or after the timesheet period closes that a notification will go out to those users and approvers that are subscribed to that not submitted timesheet subscription. The options range from -10 to 60 days. So -10 is going to be 10 days before the period closes. So that's why we have that negative option in there for you. So if you want to be alerted of any timesheets that haven't been submitted before then, you can be just so your approvers are aware of it. That's an option for you as well. Same thing with users, kind of as that reminder of, hey, you're going to have a timesheet due in a few days. Make sure you go in and do that. Project owner approval, when enabled, this is just a second layer of approval. So what this does is it allows project owners to approve or reject assignments after a timesheet manager has approved them. So that's an option that you can turn on if you'd like. Self-service timesheet flag. This allows a user to submit actual allocation against assignments on which they don't have planned allocation. So for example, if you wanted to capture actual allocation against administrative activities or against activities that are a little too difficult to forecast, such as like a break fix or support or maintenance, anything along those lines, this feature just allows admins to create placeholder projects where users can then go in, freely self-assign, and then submit actual allocations. So to configure this feature, what you would do is you would basically just select from any available project-centric Boolean fields. So anything that's got like a true or false option, and any projects that's set to true, members of that project's team will be able to self-assign and then submit actual allocation. With projects that have this custom field set to true, What this then does is when resources are added to that project, they have to be added to the build team in order to utilize this feature of that project. And then when the user's on their timesheet, they can select add assignments, and the tasks for that project will be available to add to the timesheet. Generic task label, this gives you the ability to go ahead and add in a label for any generic tasks. So if you aren't using custom tasks, but you don't want any project level assignments to say generic and you want them to say something else, like you maybe even want to enter in project level or something like that. That way when your resources are filling it out, they're not confused by that generic labeling. You can enter that in there. If that's left blank, it will simply have the assignments show up as generic tasks for them to enter time against. You can also specify the maximum amount of hours per day that can be entered on a timesheet, as well as the minimum hours per day, and then the maximum amount of hours that can be entered per timesheet and minimum hours per timesheet as well. This will be your default. If you decide not to change that, perfectly fine, but you do have the option to make those adjustments as needed. Mandatory notes for projects. Timesheet line notes can be made mandatory for specific projects. So if there were any particular projects where you wanted to maybe get feedback from a user on what specifically they did within the project, if you're not at that task level, if you just basically want to get a status report from them, you could select which projects, and regardless of the assignment, any user that has planned allocations against these projects, it will show up as a mandatory item for them to complete on their timesheet. Auto approve for resources. If you have any specific resources that you want their timesheets to just automatically be approved in Tempus, you can select their names from within here. If you need to select all, you have the option to do that as well. So it does give you the option to add in resources that you know for a fact anytime they enter in a timesheet, their time would automatically be approved. You can add that in here. Allow assignments for assignment requests for projects. If you know if there are any specific projects where it's kind of like an all hands on deck mentality, maybe you have like a very large build team on there or something like that. You can ultimately add this onto a project, so that any resource could go ahead and request time to be added to that project for anything that they've been working on. You can also choose to hide projects from timesheets. So if the project is still open, but there really shouldn't be any work being done additionally on the project, you could choose to hide those projects from the timesheet here. You could also choose to show any project attributes. This just gives a timesheet user view only access to specific project attributes within a timesheet. So just an option for you there, especially if they're wanting to see maybe the phase the project is in or an attribute, something along those lines. You could go ahead and toggle that on. Assignment attributes, same thing. This allows timesheet users to select and update assignment attributes within their timesheet. Once the timesheet's then approved, the assignment attribute value will be written back to the project. So if an assignment attribute was added in by a particular user, that's going to then go ahead and pull over to the underlying project itself. Last couple things, timesheet available views. This specifies which view will be available to timesheet users. The options are by period, which is like your normal available view, and that's typically your default view. You'll also see group view, which groups projects by their task, consolidated view, and then all timesheets. One thing to note, if you do have all timesheets selected, by period will be selected automatically. So if we unselect this, you could eliminate that as an option, but if you have all timesheets, it's going to go ahead and include all of those. Default view just specifies which view will be displayed by default when a user opens their timesheet. Again, same options here. And then you can also configure the heat map threshold for your timesheets. So this just controls background cell shading in the timesheet audit report. The values entered here represent the hours or FTE that are entered within a timesheet. This you can specify the thresholds for yellow and green. Red is assumed to be anything beyond the green threshold. So to configure the heat map threshold, you can just click into the center of either the green or the yellow and change this if you'd like. Um, Basically, kind of the rules you should follow when it comes to the heat map are the value entered for red should be interpreted as show yellow for any hours equal to or below this value. The value entered for green should be interpreted as show green for hours equal to or below this value, but greater than yellow's value. Yellow is always going to display for any hours greater than the green value. Once you've gone through and you've filled out your configurations, you'll want to select the save option at the top of the screen to save everything you've entered in. This completes the Tempus University training video on configuring timesheets in Tempus Resource. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to your customer success manager. And thanks for watching.